Good morning, everyone. Welcome as you come in. Today is October 2nd, 2018. I'm Roy Potter. Again, welcome to the Potter Expositor. I have an apology to make this morning, but it's really not entirely my fault. We were going to do a show on good women and bad women. However, I actually was planning on having a guest or two. And unfortunately, the lady had to go into emergency surgery this morning. She knew about it last night, so I've known since last night. But she's not available for us today. You didn't think I was going to cover that topic all by myself, did you? No, that probably wouldn't be the best thing. So at any rate, we're going to put that show off for a little while, maybe another week. It depends upon how she's doing. And I'll keep you informed on that. However, what I will do a little later, I've wrestled with this a little bit to decide whether I should do it or not. But my past is pretty much common knowledge anyway. So towards the end of this show, after I get through some of the other material that we obviously have to cover, I'll show you a clip of an interview that I did back in the late 80s. May have been in the early 90s. Frankly, I don't remember. It's been too long ago. I did a lot of interviews back in the 80s and 90s. I was on CBS Morning News with Bill Curtis and Diane Sawyer, Phil Donahue, ABC, Good Morning America, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, just tons of things. Not to mention all of the print media, and foreign and national here. So most of you probably know that, but I thought since we're going to talk about good women and bad women, I'd let you go ahead and have a shot at me first and show you that. Again, not that it's going to surprise anybody. These things are all available pretty much on the internet. Some of it's hard to find, like the Donahue shows. I was on 2 of those, actually. But at any rate, since we're going to talk about good women and bad women in the near future, within the next week or 2, I hope everything goes well with her. I figured I'd go ahead and prime it with this, and I'll probably show it again or something similar during that show, just so you know I'm not trying to, blame everything on women. It's not that. It's the fact that our society is being attacked, as it always has been. Mankind has been attacked all through the ages to try to divide it, especially along the lines of men and women. That was the very first division that took place, actually, by the adversaries to cause trouble, to cause friction. So at any rate, I'll probably show you that little clip towards the end of the show today, just to get us ready for the next thing. However, obviously the most important thing to talk about today is the Las Vegas massacre that happened a year ago, last night. As you can see, I'm calling this video "Criminal Cover-Up Las Vegas Massacre a year ago. And, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. The official narrative is horse manure. Anybody who's investigated that to any degree knows it. I've seen some MAGA people and some Trump supporters, surprisingly, support the official narrative. And like I say, I'm not going to get into all the details here. But the official narrative, like the 9/11 official narrative, is hogwash. It's lies, it's deceit. And of course, the pretense that they're using is national security, which is really nothing more than to cover up the criminal behavior of the people in our government who knew about it and did nothing to stop it, or who actually assisted in those things happening. And there are lots of other events that we could talk about, but I just wanted to hone in primarily on Las Vegas and kind of the 9/11 thing, because that, of course, happened. It's been a few weeks since that date passed us. There are people in our government who consent to murdering our citizens, stealing their property, doing other things to push the America First narrative in a way that's not the way Trump means. It's so that they can use the American resources and people to conduct evil business around the world. Use our military, which is the strongest, despite many of its weaknesses, to advance the evil cabal's purposes. And they have no compunction about hurting and killing Americans. It's bad enough that anybody goes through this. I saw where a young lady, Instagram model, was killed last week. I'm not going to cover that a whole lot, but the types of stupidity and the types of prejudice and bias and ignorance in the world are really horrible. And then you look at a government that does basically the same thing for some of the same reasons as some of these individual criminals and terrorists, and it's very disturbing. So I just wanted to bring up the Las Vegas thing. There are a lot of people that have done a lot of work on that, as well as the 9/11 deal. Jake Morphonios, of course, with Blackstone Intelligence, I know he has some differing opinions than most on Israel and Palestine and Trump and that, but he's a good investigator, and he did a good job on uncovering what happened at Vegas. Another is Shepard Ambellas of IntelliHub. He covered it very well. He showed that there were helicopters involved, amongst some other things that occurred. And of course, there's Laura Loomer, who's earned quite a reputation for her vigor and her courage and her willingness to step out in front. So I'm not going to go over all the details of Las Vegas. I'm going to ask you, if you want to see anything about that, to go and check them out. I've talked about it ad infinitum, of course, back up to several months after it happened, and I mention it even occasionally now. It was not a lone gunman. There's no way it was. I knew people on the ground who were actually shot, the angles that they were shot at, and some other things. So it's not what we've been told. It probably was something to do, if not with ISIS, although I think it definitely had a tie-in, and I think that's been proven, despite there's even apparently an argument now between the FBI and the Las Vegas Police Department on that. Regardless, both of those organizations are corrupt as hell, as everybody should know now. And there's a war going on. There was a war going on between the FBI and the CIA, and I think, of course, that's probably been resolved to some extent now, and it's all one thing. So they're not out there for the benefit of the American people and truth, justice, and the American way and the constitutional republic. They're out there for themselves. They have loyalty to their institution and the institution's goals, not the American people or the constitutional republic. So I just wanted to say that, get that out of the way, because that is a major thing that we've had to contend with. And we continue to see all the things that the FBI is being exposed like never before, thanks to this entire coup situation that Donald Trump has had to put up with. And of course, that's actually attacking us as well. What they've been doing is attacking the American people, that we can't have our constitutional republic and our elections and to go ahead. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out. No, I didn't black out. I saw a lot of people got upset about trying to think I used clickbait there on the blackouts. Well, look, if you look at how I do my shows, okay, I did that live stream from the Bohemian, and then I wanted to talk about the situation with Kavanaugh and the blackout claims and things like that. So, I'm not out here to satisfy everybody's desires about how I conduct what I do. That wasn't clickbait. That was about blackouts, which was referred to in the video prior to that. So I'll name my videos what I want, and I hope most of you understand, which I'm sure you do. By the way, the chat is on this morning, so you can have at it there, and I guess we'll move forward. So again, remember the victims, both those who lost their lives and their families and those who were wounded in Las Vegas, and the same for 9/11. And understand that your government, they're covering it up. I honestly do believe that Trump wants to reveal what's going on there, but that's entering some real dangerous waters, and he does have to have some type of support before he does that, if he ever does. Frankly, I think it needs to be done despite everything, even if it does cause chaos, but the number one goal of government is order maintenance of order, not the truth. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's the way it is. Okay. I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that have been happening in the last few days. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Kavanaugh thing other than, peripherally. We're going to be on the periphery about this. I think everybody knows where I stand on it. It's obvious that the testimonies that have been given by the so-called victims, it's interesting. These people are making allegations, and the system, especially the mainstream media and the Democrats and the leftist Marxists and the feminists, all call these people survivors without any evidence that they survived anything. So, it's all a word game. It's all an emotional manipulation. Certainly Christine Ford did not prove that anything happened to her, at least not by Brett Kavanaugh. And I think that's going to come out. And now they're trying to get back, of course, to the situation where he drank beer in high school and college, and, a young man gets in a few fights, whatever. That's expected. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that particular thing with the the four major, not including Schumer, but the four major Democrats that are on the Senate Judiciary Committee that Sebastian Gorka mentioned, I think it was yesterday or the day before. But prior to that, let's talk about a little situation in a press conference that Donald Trump had the other day. This is why I love Trump, No, I'm not sure I know all of his plans and everything. Of course I don't. I think he's a good guy. I'm 90% sure of that. I get disappointed, as you all know, with Syria and the situation with Iran and all of that. I do understand that the Clintons, John Kerry, Obama, they're using Iran the way they were North Korea, and I understand that. But at any rate, just so that you know, I'm concerned about those two things. But as far as him handling the MSM, I find it great. I just wish he would take it a step further, as you've heard me say before, and explain that the MSM is the propaganda arm of the intelligence community, primarily the CIA, and he's never actually gone that far. But the other day he was having a conversation it wasn't a conversation. it was a press conference, and Cecilia Vega kept trying to interrupt. I want to play you this clip. You've probably all seen it, and it's not complete. A lot of folks have put it out there, but I want you to see this. Watch this and see what you think.
Sure. She's shocked that I picked her.
No.
She's like in a state of shock.
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
In a tweet this weekend, Mr. President, you said that it's incorrect to say you're limiting the scope of the FBI investigation.
What does that have to do with trade? I don't mind answering the question, but, you know, I'd like to do the trade
It has to do
questions
with the other
later.
headline in the news, which is the Kavanaugh nomination.
But how about talking about trade, and then we'll get to that. We'll do that a little bit later.
Do you think the trade,
Anybody have a trade?
Do you
Go
think
ahead,
your trade
please.
deal will pass through Congress, sir?
I think so, but, you know, if it doesn't, we have lots of other alternatives. But I do think so. I think if they're fair, which is a big question, but if it's fair on both sides, the Republicans love it. Industry loves it. Our country loves it. If it's fair, it will pass. I think it'll pass easily, really easily, because it's a great deal. I mean, NAFTA passed. It's one of the worst deals I've ever seen. Inconceivable that it was made. Fair question. Any other questions on
Thank
trade?
you.
I'll get back to you on the other question.
I'd like to go forward with my Kavanaugh question.
Let's do that later, and but I'll call you a second time. Go ahead, please. Thank you very much.
Truer words were never spoken. Did you see Mnuchin behind him there? He's doing everything he can to keep from busting out laughing. I think he's biting his tongue, probably stepping on his own toe, because I thought that was a classic. And of course, Trump's done a lot of those things the last few months, couple of years since he started campaigning. He's never been one to mince his words when the opportunity arose where he could do so. So at any rate, I thought that was great. I won't comment any more on it. I'll just leave it at that. I did want to bring up, of course, that the Democrats in the Senate Judiciary Committee there are doing the bidding of Hillary Clinton and that whole cabal, and I think everybody knows that. It's funny that Senator Hirono, I think that's how you say her name, from Hawaii, she said that Kavanaugh is not fair and unbiased. Well, you get a guy out there and you insult him, you lie about him, you allow these unsubstantiated, uncorroborated allegations to be thrown out there for the whole world to see. And the guy defends himself, his person, his family, his honor, and they find that reprehensible. That should tell you a lot about these people, and I think it does for the most part. They don't want to give up their evil crimes. They don't want to be revealed. And I've talked about the situation with Kavanaugh before and the possibility of criminal trials, both in the civilian side and the military, against many of these people. And so that's most likely part of it. It's not just an ideology difference. They really do want to take over the government and make it a tyranny, an autocratic tyranny, just like Lindsey Graham said when he absolutely blew up the other day. These people are dangerous, and unfortunately, we're not doing a whole lot to stop it. I don't know where this is going to go. A lot of people like Matt Bracken and others are cautioning to get ready, and of course, I do all the time, too. I just hope it doesn't get to the point where it's really, really bad. Lindsey Graham made a point. I thought this was funny in this whole thing. He said, good people won't want to take public office. Lindsey Graham said, with what's happened with Kavanaugh, good people won't want to take public office. Isn't that what the leftist Marxists want? They don't want good people to take office. That's the whole idea with all of this. It's a win-win situation for them. They discourage good people from wanting to get in there. Oh, we want to, but in reality, what's going to happen when you get there? Like what's happening to Judge Kavanaugh, or to Trump, for that matter. So what I would say to Lindsey is that that's their objective, Lindsey. So, that's self-evident. that's what they want. They want their kind in charge of government. You said that as well. They want power, and he hopes the American people never allow them to get it. So that's what it's about. It's not an ideological difference between the Democrats wanting government to take care of people, the social welfare net, that kind of thing, as opposed to the Republican side on more capitalism. That's not the argument anymore. The argument is destroy the Constitution on the leftist side, destroy the Constitution, destroy the constitutional republic, destroy the Bill of Rights, surveillance, even more. The Republicans are pushing it too, I know. I don't want to get in an argument about that. Obviously, that's true. There are rhinos, there are people in government who want control, power there. But you watch what these leftist Marxists do, and very, very likely there are Republicans, I won't name any names, but there are likely Republicans that are for exactly what they're doing. They want that argument. They want that combat. They want that fight, that discontent. And it's sad. And as I think it was, I don't know if it was Benjamin Franklin or John Adams, but they said, one of the two of those said that our government's only for righteous people, our form of government. And if they aren't righteous, and people have been working real hard in the government to make our people unrighteous, this form of government won't work. And I think we're seeing that exactly happen. So we're going to have to all stand on our own bottoms. There's an old statement back from the 1800s, you'll have to be your own tub and stand on your own bottom, and that's certainly looking like the case. Where we go from there, I don't know. But this isn't going to break down as some other tacticians and strategists, military experienced people who studied it know. If this thing breaks down to a shooting war, it's not going to be along geographic lines, territorial lines. It's going to be along ideological lines, very much like in Bosnia, in the Balkans, where neighbors were fighting with each other. That's where we're going. They want to balkanize us. That's what we're going to. And I've said for a long time, I think it went so far, I don't know if we can repair it. If the evidence came out tomorrow, if Trump actually was willing to fully expose 9/11 Las Vegas and the deep state and the shadow government and all of that, which I'm hoping is still going to happen. Of course, we've got to get, the midterms are important. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that either. You got to get out and you got to vote, especially if you're in highly contested areas. Not that I'm necessarily happy with the Republicans, but we see what's happening on the Democratic side. And as I said, there are Republicans that are backing that too. Okay, so they're facades, they're rhinos. They pretend to be Republicans and they're not. And I really don't want it to be along party lines. But we're too wicked now. The United States has become evil. The percentage of people here that are evil is way too high. And I'm going to call it out for what it is. They're just plain evil. Okay. It used to be, that if we want to talk about Scripture, that the people that the Democrats are, that the leftist Marxists are, etc., they used to just imprison or kill the prophets, the people that would speak against them, including the prophets. Well, they still would do that if they could, but they have to kind of do it in a more subtle way. So now what they're doing, of course, is they're destroying our First and Second Amendments. Censorship, all of those things. The Chinese model, which most of you are aware of. We're going to have to try to work around that, as most of you know. I'm not sure how successful we're going to be. It really is going to depend a lot on the midterms. And if President Trump steps out, if he has the proper support and can put down this seditionist insurrection to destroy our liberties. It's interesting how they, in the last 3 decades, they've replaced liberties, what we understood liberties to be, with being weird, decadent, debauchery, immorality. those have become the standards of what liberty means rather than what it really means. So when you get that kind of destruction of the language and of the consciences of the people, bad things happen, and that's exactly what's occurring right now. I was going to quote a guy here, but I don't think I will. All right, I want to show you this from Seb Gorka. Let's see if you can see this. I'm going to try to put it up there. Some of you who have Twitter may have actually seen this. Can you see that? Who he's talking about are these four people right here. Okay? And you should all recognize those. All right? Listen to what he says. America, 2018. These are all the people that are accusing Kavanaugh and Trump and doing all these crazy things. And this is not an extensive list of what these people have done. But you should know who I'm talking about here, who he's talking about. He says, America, 2018. A man who groped a girl in high school. A man who lied about being a Vietnam War veteran. I like this one because my Republican friend in California thinks that this is, he sent this to Gorka and he's thinking that he actually included this in his tweet here. Matter of fact, this friend of mine in California, a Republican insider, wanted me to do a skit on this and put it on YouTube. I don't know if that would be a very wise idea, but anyway, you'll know who this is, I think. A woman who slept with a man 30 years her elder to build her political career. She did a lot of other things too. She set loose murderers, rapists, a lot of other people. She did some really bad things when she was Attorney General in California. And finally, and the woman who had a Chinese spy on her payroll for 20 years. Those are those people. And the final statement that he says there is that those are the types of people that want to judge an innocent man. Remember, Luciferians, Satanists, those who follow Baphomet, those types of things, what they do is they're accusers. They're false accusers. That's what they do. That's why they were thrown out of heaven to begin with. Unfortunately, we're sharing this place with them, and it's really sad, but we're seeing what they are like up front. Okay, well, let's see. That's practically everything I wanted to just bring up this morning. As you can tell, I'm still a little under the weather. So maybe it's good that we didn't have our guests on today. Actually, there were going to be two of them on this subject that I wanted to cover. It's one of those subjects you're not going to win. It's a catch-22. No matter what you say, you're going to be held in derision, or you're going to be considered courageous. It really depends. But we've lost track of what our roles are. In business, you have a job and you do that job. You might be trained for some other things, but the point is you have a role. Well, life is very similar, and this thing on the sexes is very important because those are roles that guarantee the survival of the species. And unfortunately, they're being mixed up too much. In the Bible, of course, it talked about, and I mentioned this once before, that a woman should not wear men's clothing, and a man shouldn't wear a woman's clothing, and men shouldn't lay with men the way, they lay with women. And I wholeheartedly agree, and they can throw me off YouTube for saying it. As I said, I'll go on vacation. Probably the reason why they haven't done that yet is, you keep your friends close and your enemies closer. The IC likes to know what I'm up to, so very likely that's the only reason why I haven't been censored more. They've taken down a couple of my videos from time to time and said it was the user that did it, and it wasn't. One time I made a mistake and hit the wrong button, but the other times that wasn't me. They just blamed it on me, and it wasn't. But anyway, I do think that these roles are important. You're expected to fulfill your role when you get a job or you're on a team of some sort. And mankind's experience here is supposed to be a team effort with men and women having their particular roles to play. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of depth on that, but I did want to play this clip. As I said, I've been in a lot of interviews over the years. I was a public figure, really starting in 1978. Actually, even before that, but that's another story. Some things happened when I was very, very young, and I was actually a subject of some news back then too. But regardless, starting about 1978, when I stood up, as I've talked about several times, on a situation with a bomb hoax at 12 Army Depot, and also a theft, an attempted theft of explosives from 12 Army Depot as well. No, I wasn't the culprit. No, we did the investigation. I was the provost marshal in charge of the investigations with other members of the federal government, other agencies. But at any rate, so I made it into the papers then. It wasn't significant, but it was a little bit. But of course, in the 80s is when it really happened, starting in 82, actually 83. So a lot of people, like I said, know about my background, and we're going to talk about bad women and good women. Well, what about bad men and good men? All right, well, I'm going to let you go ahead and have your shots, because we're going to cover this topic sometime in the next couple of weeks on good women and bad women, and why this is so critical to our survival as a people, as mankind, even as communities and as nations, and all this claptrap that there should be this change in roles, especially when they want to denigrate men. Yeah, some men deserve it, sure they do. But as we're going to point out, so do women. And what we've got to stop are these types of accusations that occur, like the ones that are being made against Judge Kavanaugh, merely saying that, women have to be believed because they're women. We start going down that road, and there are going to be some real problems. Because remember, it's divide and conquer. Once they get you to agree with that, then they take you to the next step. So that's what we have to be wary of, and that's what we were going to talk about today with my guests. So down the road, hopefully we'll be able to do that. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and again, there have been a lot of people who have done this. Joel Bott. I heard Uni Rock the other day talk about that I was upset with Joel Bott. No, he misunderstood my text. What I was saying is that these people that think that they're investigative reporters and analyzing a situation never quite do it. What they do is they show things that give you a wrong impression. Let me give you an example. I had a college professor, a history professor, and he had been in Vietnam. And he never killed anybody. He never did any of that. He was a JAG officer, I believe, something like that. But because he was in the Army, he got back from Vietnam, and a lady came up to him and says, "How does it feel to be a baby killer?" Well, he had never killed any babies. She was finding guilt in him because of his profession, number one, and basically what comes down to guilt by association, which I have rejected. That is entirely wrong. So my point is that a lot of these YouTubers and other people, it's in the MSM as well, they tell the story, but not in the depth that it takes to understand what the real issues are. Just like with this, he was a colonel, and he was accused of being a baby killer, and he said back to the lady, this was pretty good, he was pretty bright and really quick. He says, when she said to him, "How does it feel to be a baby killer?" He said, "I don't know. How does it feel to hire one?" Which was really true. And we all knew how bad the Vietnam War was, so that's not the issue. But the point is that guilt by association doesn't work. And so when you start, lumping people in, like my reasons for doing what I did in the 80s had nothing to do with the situation that some of these people that cover the issue try to make it out to be. That's the reason why I decided to show this clip. Whether or not you agree with me, my decisions at the time, or even how I feel about it today, would I ever do this again? No. You go through. Who wants? No. That's like hell. It really is. which is another thing we're going to talk about when these ladies can come on. But I think it's important that you know basically what as best as you can, because you can't really get into my mind. I'm not trying to convert anybody. I'm trying to show you that this was a serious decision, and we looked at it in a very serious manner. All the women were women, all of them except my first wife. I married her when I was 18. Can you believe that? Didn't have to get married, as I've said before. Did it because that's how we felt about it. It needed to be done that way. All the other women involved were at least 25 years old, at least, when I was with them. No child brides, all that. See, that's the kind of thing, like with Tom Green. There was a guy by the name of Tom Green who I told him, I said, I don't think you're doing this right. He married some children, really. They were 13 years old. At least one of them was. And that's crazy. And when I went to talk to him about it, it was after he had been, I think he had already been arrested, if not, and this was years after it happened, as the women he was with were already way older, adults by this time, and still were with him. But they went after him, for this 13-year-old. And I said, why did you do that? How in the world? I mean, what? That's not a woman. What are you doing? And he says, well, God told me to do it. And I said to him, well, only God's going to get you out of this if he told you to do it. And of course, he went to prison, so we didn't get him out of it. My point is that don't use guilt by association. That's just not going to cut it. I had different reasons for being there, talking to Tom, knowing him. And the same thing with a lot of other people that were involved. I never joined any real groups. The closest I came to, as I talked about, was after I became a libertarian. Well, actually, it was just before. But a situation in southern Utah at a place called Big Water with Alex Jones, who actually was starting a political movement. That's really what it was. It definitely wasn't, anything pushing any particular religious conviction. But a lot of people will try to make it into that because he and I were doing some similar things. But anyway, okay, so let me go ahead and play this. What this is, and I'm going to give full credit to the people that did it. It was a national television series. I forget the name of the group that actually did this, but the name of it is A Matter of Principle, and I'm in this particular clip. Actually, I was featured several times during I think it was a 5-part series, but I think this is the best one to kind of give you a flavor for this, and then we'll be on the same page so that you guys can when we get to the bad women, good women thing, you can say, yeah, but look what you did, and I'm ready for that. Okay, all right. So here we go. This is about a 4 or 5 minute clip, I think. Okay, so here we go.
But to Ogden Kraut, the estimated 30,000 polygamists in the Mountain West are rank-and-file citizens who provide no clues to their beliefs.
Well, I think people would be very surprised if they knew how many fundamentalists there were and the positions that they're in government, in state, in the church, in general society. Fundamentalists don't usually go out saying, I'm a fundamentalist.
If we expect followers of the principle of polygamy to look a certain way, to stand out in a crowd, Roy Potter challenges and at the same time confirms those conventions. In the early 1980s, Potter attempted the most delicate balancing act imaginable: the private life of a polygamist coupled with the public life of a police officer in a suburb of Salt Lake City.
I remember the day quite well. It was November 15th, 1982, and I was to see Car 7, who was a lieutenant on duty, and he put the question right square to me and said, are you practicing polygamy? And I didn't give him the answer right then. I said, well, I need a couple of days to write up a statement and give it to you. Will you let me do that? And he said, yes. But the idea of a polygamist getting on their police department was such a great embarrassment to them that I think that was probably some of the impetus for the reason why they pursued me so viciously.
The city police of Murray, Utah fired Potter. But rather than go quietly, Roy Potter decided to make the first full legal challenge of anti-polygamy laws in 100 years.
The religious conviction of those who practice plural marriage in Utah is real. And there is no harm that results from it. Polygamists don't cause riots. They're not harming anybody. There's no harm to society by practicing polygamy.
The fundamental issue that they did not like and that they attacked was my religious belief. That was what they were after. The judge stated that, and they also stated it in my administrative hearing that if I had just had a girlfriend, that would have been all right. But the fact that I believed in and practiced my religious convictions, that they couldn't have that.
In a battle that sputters to a halt on the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court, Potter loses. Polygamy, however motivated, is not deemed an exercise of religion protected by the Constitution. But the losses run deeper. His career is gone, 2 of his 3 wives leave, and Roy Potter becomes a pariah.
If I had gone away quietly, I probably would have been all right. But because I wouldn't lay down and die and roll over and hide from it, and put my head in the sand, a retribution had to be carried out. At least that's the way I feel it has turned out. If a spiritual belief or a spiritual event is really important to you, then you have to be willing to sacrifice for it, or it doesn't mean anything.
The Roy Potter lesson keeps plural marriage on a quasi-underground level in the contemporary Mountain West. Congregational meetings offer compelling evidence that belief in the principle has survived prosecution and ostracism. Yet the families fiercely guard their identities and privacy for fear of retribution.
All right. Okay. I just remembered the people that did that was called A&E. A&E is the one that did that. And like I say, it was about a 5-part series, if I recall. And again, that was just one of many, many that I had done, both nationally and internationally. And I only say that because I was very public. You know, I didn't want to be, of course. That happened because of the situation as it developed. Actually, standing up for yourself, kind of like Kavanaugh did, you know. Say, well, don't compare yourself to that good, decent, monogamous man. Well, whatever. The point is that when they attacked me, especially when they attacked my family, then I had to do something about it, and so I stood up. The interesting thing is that I discussed in the book that I wrote at that time. It was called An Offender for a Word. It's taking a quote out of Isaiah, where they will make a man an offender for a word. And you noticed it in my interview there. I said, you know, it was because I said that these women were wives, even though I hadn't married them legally, except my first wife. The government wanted me to say it was just girlfriends. If you just say they're your girlfriends, even if they're extramarital affairs, that's okay. We're not going to cause you any trouble. Why? Because they all do that. All the cops, not all the cops, but a lot of them do. Military people do. It's the way that the society is. So basically they went after me because of the way that I felt about the situation. So what they were telling me is if I took advantage of another woman or group of women and just called them girlfriends, that would have been acceptable. But to actually try to do it in what I consider to be an honorable way, people will say, well, that's against the Bible. No, it isn't. But I'm not here to argue the pros and cons of it, just although what I said there. So then I said in this book, An Offender for a Word, you know, it's going to come to the point where they're going to accept gays, lesbians, trans, even there were unmarried officers who were living with each other who didn't have a state marriage license. Not that I cared about that, because I don't believe that's, I mean, state marriage licenses are, you know, that's a recent invention. That started in the 1890s or so. I've talked about that before. I'm not going to get into the history of it. But the point is that now the very things that are prohibited in the Bible and in most common sense situations are extolled and honored, and the marriage system of Abraham, Jacob, Israel, Gideon, and I could name a lot of others, it's vilified. And because they had a few bad kids, like everybody does, they say that shows the system's bad. Well, I can show you a lot of these other situations where the kids are pretty bad too. So it's really not so much the marriage situation as it is just the way things are handled, like in any common sense situation. Okay, yeah, JHP1, so denial is acceptable. They actually told me that. Better to say they are girlfriends. Yeah, absolutely. And technically, under the law, that's what they were. Utah was a little different. They wrote the law. It was a thing against, as I said in the clip there, it was a thing that the Mormon Church held against those who still believed in that. And so they wrote laws directly aimed at that religious thought, not the action, as you can see. You know, having sex with more than one woman, oh, that's okay. You just can't say that you're a family. And so they were attacking what's in your mind, not really what you were doing. And it's kind of complicated. I can't get into it any further than that because we'd be here. It'd be a legal explanation. But basically it came down to, yeah, if you're cheating on your wife, if you have a girlfriend, if you're unmarried, you know, shacking up, all those are okay. Yeah, that's exactly what they said. I was a Mormon, and they threw me out. Okay, Sucking Wind. I'm Sucking Wind is asking me, was I a Mormon? Yeah. Not all my life. I converted when I was in high school. And again, I don't want to get into all the details. I've been into several religions, and that's not very nice. These women are not skanky whores. No, you got it all wrong. They're not going to do something like that. Those types of women aren't going to get involved in that kind of relationship. They just aren't. Okay. And I'm not going to argue with people about, you know, like this sixth eye is saying, you know, multiple wives, double dipping, all that. You really don't understand human nature, and I'm not here to teach it to you. So I just wanted you to know that when we go to talk about bad women and good women, I don't mind, you know, revealing myself out there. So take it for what it's worth. Okay. Well, it doesn't look like there are many. Oh, this is interesting. Stuart Crossland. Gematria Effect News. I'm not sure what that's about. Okay. I think we're probably done. We've been going for 45 minutes. I think I covered most everything I wanted to. Yeah, Skull Brother Blasey has been a CIA, not an agent, but definitely an asset of one sort or another. Catherine Drury, if Trump exposes the deep state, we the people will unite with righteous indignation. That's what I'm hoping for. Peace Bird, the point was Las Vegas, not your past, Roy. No, you missed the beginning of this. Yes, I was going to talk about Las Vegas. I decided to do that today, but remember, the original program today was going to be on bad women and good women. So it is about me. I wanted to get that part out of the way so that everybody understood. So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, hey, who's running the show here? It's not you, whoever that was, okay? So, you know, that's just the way it is. Edelson James, I'm not going to tell you anything about my bedroom activities, okay? It's none of your business. Tony, now I know why there are a lot of single guys out there who are always dating all of the ladies. Lots of laughs. You know, it's really funny. One of the state's attorneys, actually his Murray City attorneys, he actually said that. He says, gee, if we let Roy have all these ladies, you know, there aren't going to be any for us. Come to find out he was having an affair on his wife. You know, I mean, you know, the hypocrisy is just like the hypocrisy you see in the in the Senate right now, the Senate Judiciary hearing and all of that. The hypocrisy runs rampant. You know, accuse somebody else of something so that you can continue doing what you're doing, which is the same thing, and usually for much more nefarious reasons. Okay. Oh, yeah, Jennifer Baker, you like my periscopes. Yeah, I haven't done a lot of those, and the reason is because I can't transfer them to YouTube at all. I don't have the expertise on that. It gets to the point where, operator error is part of the problem, but just knowing how the system works is another, and I don't want to get into, adding all these other programs that'll, take care of that. So I have to keep them separate, and I apologize, but that's why I'll normally do a YouTube live stream and then post it to Twitter and Periscope. But yeah, I probably will do more Periscopes. I mean, what the heck? They seem to work out real well. So yeah, we'll see about that. Okay. I like that, the Crystal Power Radio Show. When we realize that we all have within us the endless potential for doing the most despicable things, as well as the most wonderful, we can find compassion and forgiveness for each other. So needed. Yeah, hopefully in the future, a lot of people have studied this out. You'll find out what this bad seed in us is. It's talked about in many ancient cultures, including in the Bible, but it's misunderstood. And that bad seed needs to be eradicated from us. And I don't really want to get into the method of what that is, but in my estimation, it very definitely has to do with the concept, if not the very person, of who we would call Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's a good question. Roger Thunderhands Gilbert says, why would Trump okay the FBI investigation of Kavanaugh when he knows how crooked they are? Maybe just because of that. I certainly wouldn't trust the FBI. The problem, of course, a lot of people are saying that Trump is actually orchestrating much of this. He's like a conductor of a symphony. Well, I don't want to go that far. But I think he tries to use these things to his advantage when they come out. When Jeff Flake pulled that last, well, first of all, when Feinstein pulled that last minute deception, and then Flake pulled his, it was inevitable that it would have to go this way. So I don't think Trump could have said no. So just give the FBI enough rope to hang themselves. He's got some other people behind the scenes. First of all, the Senate Judiciary Committee investigators. We haven't even talked about those. Ms. Mitchell, who was asking the questions for the Republicans, she wrote that explanation, that summary, that Kavanaugh's innocent and that there are some real problems with Blasey Ford's I don't want to say honesty, but perception of the events for a lot of things. Okay, and you can go read that. She's got ties with the CIA, both at Stanford and within her family and some other things. There's some real problems with this lady. And that's really what wanted me to go towards this program about, bad women and good women. Because women really are, that's why I was talking about roles. Women really are the centerpiece. And if you have a bad woman, bad things can happen because then the children aren't brought up the way they need to be. People say, well, that's old-fashioned. Hey, old-fashioned works, ladies and gentlemen. Old-fashioned works. Smooth Operator Roy. That's Edelson James guy. He's always on to some. I guess he's got to go. Probably a good thing. I think he's a troll. I could be wrong about that, but okay. Yeah, they need to investigate all four of those people that Gorka mentioned. Absolutely. There in the Judiciary Committee. Certainly Feinstein with what she did, covering the information, but also her Chinese connections and all the other crooked stuff that she's been into, which are very likely seditious, if not treasonous. Yeah, I saw that. G-Man 5250. Yeah, apparently she's not a licensed psychologist in the state of California. I don't think you need to be a licensed psychologist to be a professor at a university or to work, but yeah, there are some problems there. I'm not sure how that really affects everything that she's been involved in, but Michael Powell. Oh, this is an Asian saying: "Happy wife, happy life. Bad women, bad life. Good women, great life." Actually, I think it's Oriental. Happy wife, happy life. Yeah. Vereen Curse. Roy, have you ever watched the one I Pet Goat 2 video? Yes, I've seen both of those. And I've talked to a number of people about those. And Paul Ferber, for instance, who you would know as Baruch the Scribe, he and I talked about it to some extent. He says, of course, that was made. It's not an expose of. It's not really an expose of the New World Order. It's a lie. It's kind of like. Anyway, he said it's a lie, and he broke it down. He's done some explanations on it, so I am aware of it. Really, it's spooky, isn't it? It's very spooky, very much so. Its character, it's the way it was made is really weird and really really scary. So. Oh, I know. There are a lot of people bashing Jesus, and a lot of people think I do. No, I understand in my thing that principle is more important than personality, and even Jesus would want us to be that way. That having the law of God written in our hearts and minds is what's important, because he said, blasphemy, all manner of blasphemy is forgiven unto man, except blasphemy against the Holy Ghost. Even blasphemy against the Son of Man is forgiven, but not blasphemy against the Holy Ghost. So I look at it being that, it's what's written in your heart and mind, how you conduct yourself, if you have love in your heart and those things. And I know some people say, no, you got to accept Jesus. That is Jesus. That is Yeshua HaMashiach. That is, I will be powerful when I'm anointed with light. That is the coming forth of salvation. Okay, but I'm not gonna get into a whole lot of detail on that. It's basically been a lifetime of study and meditation and contemplation, prayer, etc. So everybody's got to come to that understanding on their own. But I will not find fault with somebody who doesn't follow Jesus as far as following the personality, because I know a lot of people who aren't Christians that don't believe in Jesus that are far more. They actually live the life of Jesus. They actually exemplify him, have taken his name upon them in their actions, even if they don't mention the name. Yeah, Christ consciousness type of thing, Denise James. Yeah, that kind of works. That sounds a very new age, but there's a lot of truth to that too. All right, I think we're done. Joe Garcia, I like that. You cannot praise his name with your tongue, but live ungodly. Boy, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? All right, so we're done for this morning. Like I say, we'll have this show about what we're going to do today as soon as I can get these folks available again. I'll just ask that you keep them in your prayers. They'll be able to get through this ordeal, and everything will be okay. So thanks for coming. I appreciate it very, very much. Hopefully you found all those clips interesting. I know they're a little bit different, especially the stuff on me. I mean, I don't fit into too many molds. But that's probably a good thing. Okay, that gives me a lot of insight that a lot of people wouldn't have without that type of experience. And I think that's proven every day, actually. At least that's how I look at it. All right, keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. Get ready to vote in November. Get your ducks in a row, especially if you're in those high, those areas where the race is going to be close. You need to get out there. I don't like having to say support the Republicans. I don't like that. I would rather be able to say vote for the right people for the right job. But at this point, I think the battle lines have been drawn, and I don't think there's any going back. we have a situation here, an unbridgeable gulf between good and evil and between the leftist Marxists and those who believe in the constitutional republic. I don't think this breach will ever be healed. I just don't. So, like I say, pray, stay out of the way. God bless you. God bless yours. God bless Donald Trump and all of his righteous endeavors. May the Lord send him the spirit of discernment that may distill upon him as the dews from heaven, that he may know the right from the wrong and have the courage to do the right thing. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time out here.